Today's guest is a former 20-game winner, all-star, and always was a quick worker on the hill. Today we catch up with former Cubs pitcher Jon Lieber. So you pitched for 14 years in the bigs, were an all-star, won 20 games with the Cubs. When you come back for weekends like this, Cubs fans, convention, what's it like for you to get the reception that you do? It's pretty neat.
Man, it's awesome. It never gets old. It really doesn't. And I think the one thing I really enjoy is, at the time was coming back and seeing former teammates and the players that played before me, getting a chance to know those guys. And then what's really special now is, that's where I'm going to show my age, but just the fans that come up and say, you know what, you inspired me as a player when you played. I was 9 or 10 years old, and they might be in their mid-20s or late 20s. And, I just want to thank you for doing that and, making me try and be the best I could be.
That's
whatever,
cool.
And just stuff like that. Just hearing the stories that they tell. And
yeah. You ever get fans come up to you that tell you something about your career that you forgot?
there might be a few. I can't remember any off the top of my head, but I think the ones that stick out are obviously the ones I remember real well. Obviously the 21 season, I think is one that sticks out. The breaking ball, I think we were talking about that earlier. Your breaking ball was unbelievable. Those things, but it's always good.
Yeah. What teammates that you played with, whether it be in the Cubs organization or elsewhere, you keep in touch with throughout the year? I mean, I know you see a lot of ex-teammates here, but the rest of the year?
You're going to be shocked, but nobody.
Nobody? No.
Those guys are so busy doing it. I take a step back, and they have families, and, I just don't feel like I want to intrude or anything.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the guys are still playing today. Like, it was so great to see Cole Hamels. I got to know Cole when I went over to Philadelphia, and one of the finest individuals you'll ever meet. I don't know if you've had a chance to sit down and talk to him.
I have not met him, no.
But Cole is very humble, very level-headed, and he hadn't changed a bit. And I think being able to see him and just being able to catch up with him, like I said, I haven't seen him in probably 10 years. It's just been great.
When you do, work with young players or camps or whatever it may be, we talked a little bit about it, but your slider was devastating. We tried to emulate it in the backyard and would just basically hurt ourselves trying to do it. What do you tell kids that play the game and pitch now? At what age should you incorporate a breaking ball? What age should you go away from just fastball changeup? I mean, is it too early? Is there an age where it's too early to start spinning balls out there?
Yeah, I believe so. I think really my philosophy, and I could be wrong, everybody's got a different philosophy, but the thing you got to be careful with, and really it's preaching to the parents, is don't let who's ever coaching them don't feel like whatever they say is the right way, because there's a lot of guys out there that don't know what they're talking about.
Don't know, yeah.
And I don't mean that in a harsh way, but it's serious, and they're going to abuse kids. But I try and tell the kids really about high school. I think high school level,
yeah, you
could start incorporating some breaking balls. That's when I did, or at least I tried to. My philosophy for younger kids is really deception. Being able to change your speeds on your fastball, really start working on a changeup,
mm-hmm.
and I think the biggest thing is throwing to both sides of the plate. Working on this. These are things that nobody ever told me when I was their age that I wish they would have.
Yeah.
And luckily, I was able to really become, I think, very good at doing that. But if they can establish both sides of the plate, they're way ahead of the game.
You know this better than I do, but I've always said a good changeup that comes out with a fastball arm angle, looks like a fastball and has some movement,
mm-hmm.
is possibly the best pitch that anybody could throw.
Absolutely.
I mean, if it's located. Yeah.
There's and I'm gonna go back to Cole. Cole was the best at doing it, and he could tell them it was coming. That's how good it was. It still is, and there's no stress on the arm.
Yeah.
And Cole might mix in about 10% of his pitches might be curveballs, but
mm-hmm.
it was mostly fastball changeup.
And it's a healthier way to go about things.
I believe so. Yeah.
I knew this because I remember from watching you when I was growing up, but I was going through your 20-game win season and looking at some of the game times, and you were quick out there. I mean, the game's different now. Even from the short time when you retired. Well, you retired in 08?
08.
08. So 10, 11 years, things have changed. I remember, when you would throw, you run home from school and you might miss the stretch if you were pitching that day because you were quick, What's different? You don't see a lot of sub 3-hour games now, and I feel like that a big part of that starts on the mound. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, and I might be a little critical right now of the game. I just think it's a completely different game than when I played, like you said, 10, 15 years ago. I feel like pitchers are just throwing. There's no pitching involved. I think the game is based on home runs and strikeouts. And my approach to pitching was I wanted contact. I wanted the hitter to put the ball in play and let my defense work for me. Now, I'm going to be fortunate enough to, when I'm aggressive in the strike zone, I'm going to get a lot of at-bats where I'm ahead in the count, 1-2, 0-2, or whatever. I just don't think you see enough of that. I think you see enough pitchers that are falling behind. They're not being aggressive. They're being a little picky, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's gonna drag the game out, in my opinion.
And you didn't really focus necessarily on pace. It was a byproduct of the game plan you had going in that just resulted in quicker innings.
Yeah, very lucky.
Yeah.
And my approach was very simple. Joe Girardi tells it best, but Joe and I had a very good connection when he was my catcher here. I had a lot of trust in my catchers. We had a game plan. It was very, I was basically a 2-pitch pitcher. I don't know if you knew that, but I hardly ever threw any changeups. It was just a fastball slider, and wherever he put the glove, I was just going to be around that zone. I'm not going to be perfect all the time, but it was a simple approach.
So getting into life after playing, you got 4 kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great to be a dad.
It's awesome.
You're home with them a lot. How old are they?
My oldest, she's 21. Jillian, Jared's 18. Justin is going to be 16. And then Jonah is going to be 12.
Okay. So older one, college, or
she's at
getting
college.
to college for the second oldest?
Yeah, she's at NYU. She's going to be in Australia for studying abroad.
Good for
coming
her.
Up here. Yeah, starting next week. And then Jared, he's my senior. He's going to Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 2 is just kind of up in the air. So
they think it's cool to have a dad that was a big league ball player.
Yeah, I think my daughter and I think all the kids are, they think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I really think my daughter and my third one, Justin, they really like it. They talk about this trip every year. Are you going back to Chicago? Or are you going to be there? And I always got to say, I don't know. It just depends on if the phone call comes or not.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I really enjoy about doing this as well, is they get to come and hang out and interact with the fans and all that.
And they're with you this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So they look forward to it. I mean, it's a fun weekend for them.
Mm-hmm.
You grew up in Iowa, you said, Midwest boy. When you were a kid, allegiance baseball-wise, who was it to, if anybody?
I hate to say this, but I was probably a front runner. My brother was he's 5 years older than me. He was a huge Dodgers fan. I think he is still to this day. So I was a Dodgers fan, Steve Garvey fan. Big time Steve Garvey fan.
Yeah.
And then I think the Twins were winning in the 80s and the Mets. And so I would follow those teams. But had a couple buddies that were diehard Cubs fans. I just never, Chicago just never, I guess grew on me, but obviously it has now.
Right. Did you have a plan when you were done playing? You played for a long time, and you devote your whole life or a good chunk of it to baseball, I'm sure. And then it's done. Did you start thinking about what's next before you're done, or was that not?
That's probably one of the biggest regrets, is that I didn't plan very well on what I wanted to do after the game. I think I took that for granted, that you just never think it's going to come to an end. It was very hard for the first year or two because nobody prepares you for that. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I try and do is tell the younger players, whatever you do, no matter if you're 27 or 33 or whatever, start planning on it now because it's going to be here before you know it. But I ended up, getting into residential development back home.
Okay.
We were able to buy a bunch of property just outside of Mobile, and the area has done really well over time and it's starting to grow and really pick up. So I got involved with that, and I'm very involved. I'm not like a typical developer just going in and selling lots. I'm here. I'm talking to the people and mowing the grass and all that stuff.
That's interesting to me. I was a business major in college, so that's right up my alley. How'd you get involved in that?
During the downtime, with the economy, a buddy of mine, mentioned about, putting in a neighborhood. D.R. Horton's a tract home builder, and
Mm-hmm.
they were getting very big in that area and selling houses left and right. And so, long story short, I did my homework, talked to a bunch of developers and real estate people, and just a lot of questions about it because I just didn't want to jump into something that I really wasn't sure about or didn't know a whole lot about. And once I got comfortable with that, I just pulled the plug and said, "Here we go."
And you live down there in that area, so you're there, you're hands-on.
Hands-on, and get to see it grow, and
That's cool.
Do all those things.
What's a typical day like for you at home now? No more baseball, retired, you got into real estate development.
Yeah, take the kids to school every morning. I'm up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. Come back and just do some things around the house. And if I got to run out to, like I said, I do the maintenance on the neighborhood. So during the summer, it's so hot and things are growing. I'll spend 3-4 days a week out there.
That's hard work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
In that heat?
Yeah. But it's rewarding. I enjoy it. But that's basically
good for you.
It. Yeah.
How big of the area is it that you develop? I mean, how many homes are in that?
The piece of property that it's going to be like 135, 140 homes.
So it's
right
good
now
size.
there's I think 32 in there.
Okay.
One day I'll hand that over though. Somebody else can do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be me. But, right now, it's
a big undertaking, huh?
Yeah.
To go
absolutely.
through from nothing to start to finish is a long road.
Yes. Yeah. Very much.
I was just doing some research so we could sit down and talk, and I found a picture of a big old truck you bought.
Oh Lord.
Years back. Years back.
Skip.
I'm not to the extent you were, but I had a big, overly large, too large truck that my wife wasn't the happiest with, but I really liked, and my daughter really liked.
Mine wasn't either.
But it wasn't as big as yours. I mean, that thing was a monster.
One of the biggest mistakes I ever did. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you about it. It was just an impulse buy, and
it was a cool truck, though.
No, it was. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
My kids, they absolutely loved it, but it was one of the biggest mistakes I ever did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so the kids love the truck, but at the time, we're very fortunate to make all this money or whatever, and I think it was it might have been Justin or Jonah, or my youngest one. I think he was 5, and he said, "Dad," he goes, "why didn't you buy a Lamborghini or something, or to where we could really enjoy it?" But
Yeah.
I said, "Nah, that those days are done. That'll never happen again."
Yeah. When you interact with fans, wherever it may be, here or elsewhere, what are some of the most common questions you get about when you played or life now or anything along those lines?
It's just what are you up to nowadays?
Yeah.
How are things? But they're also positive. I think it's the feel good stories that they bring back to me and say, "Man, you just you don't know how much you meant to my kids or my family or my dad and stuff like that. That means a lot."
Yeah.
So I think just reminisce about the past and stuff like that.
Yeah. You might not remember this. This is probably 6-7 years ago, maybe. I was emceeing a fantasy camp sort of clinic at Wrigley, and you were there as one of the coaches, I think.
Yeah.
And you said earlier you always liked hitting, and you dug into the box and just started mashing balls over the right field wall. I mean, mashing. And we were up in the booth in between sessions or something. I said, "My God, look at him in there." You didn't miss a beat.
You notice I haven't been asked back.
I haven't either, so don't feel bad. But you always enjoyed hitting.
I did. Yeah.
And before you pitched or while you were pitching, what other positions did you play?
It was I wasn't known for my speed, but I love the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
That's one wish I wish I could do was be able to run. 'Cause
Yeah.
I do. I love playing the outfield.
Yeah.
I love shagging balls. And throwing the ball as hard as you can to a certain base, third base or home or whatever. And that's one of the reasons that I played that position out there. But hitting was always my passion as a kid and growing up. And I tried to take a lot of pride in that. that's one regret is I wish when I was playing I took it more serious, if that makes sense. Because, the biggest compliment I had, Charlie Manuel, my manager in Philly, we sat down, he said, and he'd tell me, he said, Liebs, he goes, you can hit. He goes, if you want to work at it, he goes, I can get you in there and straighten you out. And that's one of the things I wish I would have taken him up on, being able to work, because Charlie's a great hitting coach.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the best. But yeah, when I get in there, I'm a 5 o'clock hitter.
Yeah.
Not a 7 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, you were good at it, but at the same time, so much of a major league pitcher's time is devoted to pitching, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's hard to find time for both.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and you just got your natural good athletes. Gary Wood was he was just gifted. He could pitch and hit.
Yeah.
You got guys like that. So. But I did. I love my batting practice. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you noticed that.
Oh, I noticed. Yeah. When they won the World Series, the Cubs in 2016, and obviously, you played for other teams in the bigs too. But given what it meant to the city and the fan base, and when you were watching it unfold, what was going through your mind and your heart? I mean, that postseason was crazy.
I was like, did this really just happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I think from the first time I was traded over here in the December of '98, and being on that caravan out there with all those people, going to the cities and just seeing the passion, that was the first time it really, learning about Cubs baseball and what it meant to these people out there. And I think that's what just, really came over me. It was just these people that just were living for that moment, and it finally paid off. It was just so satisfying.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have been here to witness that and and celebrate with those fans.
Yeah.
But now I'm hoping that they get a chance to do it again, and I will be here.
Yes.
So,
I hope you're right.
yeah.
You mentioned earlier when you came in, you do some charity work back home. What kind of stuff you guys doing?
There's a golf outing and a fundraiser for a cancer event that they put on at a local hospital in my hometown. So I've been involved with that ever since I've been out of the game, and they have local people come back and do that. So it's really they have 3 or 4 honorees that they bring in every year that have dealt with cancer, and it's pretty amazing how the community comes together.
I'm sure. I mean, obviously, it doesn't take the place of playing, but weekends like this help you get your baseball fill. Now that you're not playing every day at the ballpark,
It does.
Yeah.
I wish they would do this like every 6 months.
I don't think the fans would disagree with you either.
Honestly, it would be nice if they had, during the baseball season, a 3 or 4 day weekend to where, kind of like this, but you come to the ballpark and guys get together and might have a golf outing or whatever. And
It's a cool idea.
And, we can go check out 3 or 4 games while we're here in town.
You miss playing?
I did.
Yeah.
I think the first year or two, had a very hard time with it, but right now it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
I'm fine.
Have you been back to Wrigley since you played?
The last time I was there was during the playoffs when they played the Mets in the championship series.
15.
Yeah, right before the World Series. So that was the last time. I haven't had a chance to see the clubhouse or anything. I need to get back and go check that out.
Yeah.
Because I'd really like to see it.
That whole area obviously different than when you were playing, but it's pretty cool.
Well, you got to give all the credit to the Ricketts. I mean, on what they've done. Obviously they had a vision. When they bought the club on what they wanted to do, and I think it was long overdue. Even when I was playing there, for those things to happen, and for the fans. I mean, because that's what he's really doing is, he's bringing something special for that area, and just making it 10 times better. And I think in the long run, it's just great.
A lot of players make not excuses, but just day games at Wrigley are tough in terms of scheduling compared to the rest of the schedule. You play a lot of night games on the road, and now you play more night games at Wrigley too. You had success. You had very good success at Wrigley. Did it bother you, the day games ever?
Loved them.
You loved them.
Yeah.
I love them too. I'm not playing though, so I wanted to ask you.
It just felt like, I guess I could kind of understand the hitters especially if you were a new guy coming in from another team, it would be. I think it would be a challenge. But for a pitcher, it just didn't get any better. It felt like a real job, and you're out of there by 5 o'clock, and
you pitch, you
go have an evening and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just really, I had no problem getting up for a day game.
Yeah.
And stuff. I just really enjoyed it.
I was just curious. John, thank you for sitting down with us. I really appreciate it.
No, man, thank you.
It was
for
a
having
pleasure.
Me. Yeah, thank
really
you so
a pleasure.
much.
Thank you. To see more of my interviews with former Cubs, be sure to subscribe to our Cubs YouTube page.